15 states have seceded.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Frauds, where myself, Matt, and my co-host, Tyler,
Hello.
provide completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. Today, we are doing another bonus episode where we talk about new releases, this one being Alex Garland's Civil War. Last episode, we did Ex Machina, which isn't up yet, but we did it to
It will be.
prepare. We did a search for modern classics to prepare for the release of Civil War, and we watched it yesterday, and we were thinking about recording episode right after we saw the movie. Ultimately, I'm glad we did not do that because I think that the time I've had to think about it will improve the quality of our conversation over it. But this is setting up to be A24's biggest opening for any of their films. It is a movie that is kind of taking the internet by storm with how divisive it is, mostly because of how indecisive or vague it is on its own politics. I think people were getting really ready to get riled up to either praise the movie or condemn it, and then they watch the movie and it's not really what the general population was expecting. And to be honest, it wasn't really what I was expecting either. So we've had about almost 24
day.
hours to think
Yeah.
about it. I am a huge Alex Garland fan, as was made obvious in our last episode. Tyler, you really enjoy Alex Garland as well. What are your thoughts on Civil War, and how has the past 18 hours changed your perception of it?
So we went to my mall. We walked around and we saw the movie, and then we walked around some more, and we're just like, So I mean, we're
What
gonna
is Civil War?
Yeah, first, okay, so Civil War is this we won't spoiler. This is a spoiler discussion of Civil War. You know, go see it, watch us, and then come back and see it or listen to us, whatever you're doing here. It's basically about this vaguely defined civil war that's happening in America. A fascist president has seemingly, from the small context they've given, has joined a third term, eradicated the FBI, got rid of the Constitution, and the United States is broken off into multiple factions. The states that aligned with the old U.S. government, the Western Alliance of California and Texas. There's the Florida Alliance. I think there's one more. And the story is basically four journalists want to get to D.C. To interview the president, and that's the story. It's basically a series of vignettes of things they encounter along the way. That's kind of it. It's a movie not about Civil War itself, but about journalists and journalism. And I was not at all expecting that, because a movie that's, I mean, shit, dude, the marketing for this is Civil War, look out. I wonder, because you and I both listened to at least some of the same interviews here, maybe even read some of the same stuff with Alex Garland, but if he had any hand in the marketing, because the marketing is not this movie. And I wonder if the movie was marketed more in line with what the movie is actually about, if it's people don't go see it. If they don't, it's kind of shocking how this marketing did not do this movie justice or hid what the actual movie is about. We can talk about our actual thoughts with it, but I mean, before we even went to see this, what was your perception of it? Did you have an idea of what to expect? What did you think with it before we even saw it?
I thought it was going to I didn't know it had anything really to do with journalism going into the movie. I thought it was just going to be following this band of survivors or whatever in a civil war. I thought it would be more politically focused. And then the movie starts, and it's a series of vignettes of these journalists on their way from Pittsburgh to
I think it's New York to DC, but they have to travel around. They have to take the long way, so that it's kind of a U shape to get down to DC. I think the locations are really irrelevant outside of kind of like one shot with like the Ghost Stealer sign on the
Yeah.
ramp, and then there's like the bodies hanging underneath. Yeah. So what'd you think? Out of curiosity, because I feel like you
Do you like how I
left.
asked you what your thoughts were, and then you went on a super tangent,
I
and then
just
never said
need
anything about your own thoughts?
because I
Okay, I
don't
see
know.
how it is.
No, because I
Um,
don't know how to talk about this.
okay, so
I am.
so let's just say my arbitrary scale of a movie is
Yep.
like Man of Steel being the absolute worst, meh being like the middle, and then like fuck yeah being like this is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Watching the movie, I was like firmly in fuck yeah.
Yeah.
When we got out of the movie and started talking about it, I was leaning towards meh. And then like as the day went on, I went for a walk and everything. I'm going back towards fuck yeah. Now that
Okay.
I understand what the movie is trying to do, and I've looked at the interviews, I have problems with Alex Garland, some of Alex Garland's interviews, that we can get into. I think
Yeah.
he is straw manning arguments against this movie like hard,
Yeah.
and so we can talk about that. But from a character study. And like Alex Garland across his movies has always been good at character studies, especially like in relation to like a fairly well realized world and like like varying. Even though like he's always been like that like speculative science fiction genre, each story is very unique. Like AI, Lovecraftian, like brutal, um, dystopian crime. I mean like occupied by like police force and dread, and then now like a somewhat plausible, not too distant future civil war in the U.S. Um, from a character study, like I think like the more I thought about Kirsten Dunst's character, who's the main character, her name is Lee. She's like the semi-famous war journalist, at least
Yeah.
like in the war journalist community, she's famous. And her character arc, I think, is brilliant. I don't think Kristen Dunst is gonna get any like academic acknowledgement for how great she is in this
Academic.
movie. I mean, Academy.
I mean, listen, we can write articles like and send them to like film classes at school and be like,
Yeah,
she's
I meant like
great.
Academy. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think the Oscars are gonna care about her performance at all, but I think she's brilliant in it.
Same here.
And like the more when we talk about her, where her arc begins and where it ends, I think it's great. And also what Jesse, the younger journalist, represents is great. From Alex Garland's interviews, I both gained a greater appreciation for this movie and also am realizing that he's really strong manning arguments against it. Um, and you know, let's just go into it. Well,
Let's
first
just
of
do
all, what are
it.
your thoughts, Coward, on this movie? How has it changed? And then we can go into Alex Garland.
We are the exact same. So first off, I like our official film fraud
Oh, I'm
scale
sure
of
we are exactly the same.
no, okay, shut up. First off, our film frauds film scale of Man of Steel, meh, fuck yeah, is a
Okay.
fascinating little thing to do. I myself would put Man of Steel in the meh category, but you know, that's besides the point. We don't have to get into that. I'm in the complete agreement with you in the regards that like listening to his interview, I have more of a respect for Alex Garland, but also at the same time, I it like diminished my thoughts on the movie more. Where I'm like, I see where you're going, but also at the same time, I think your arguments are like really. His arguments are so fascinating because like by engaging, like he establishes these types of arguments that by the mere disagreeing with them, you're agreeing with his perspective of like polarization, which is the point. And he's like, I don't want to engage with you if you can't like be it because he's a self-proclaimed centrist, but he's a
Yeah.
centrist in the terms of like market capitalism, which you don't want to make an entire episode about politics, but isn't really feasible right now. And I don't think is what the movie is. He's not making a centrist political. It's really fast. The movie's decent. It's really, really messy, and it's only gotten messier the more I've thought about it, and the more I've read more about it, and the more I've like lived with it, I guess, for a day. But at the same time, the highs are so high that it makes it a really fascinating experience to like really think about. Kirsten Dunst is like the best part of this movie. I have completely agreed. Like her stuff, like her like war torn like looks and like the apathetic like way she moves about. Like the camera is really fascinating. Like it's really well directed. It's really well shot. It's like genuinely like exhilarating, thrilling camera work and set design and production design. Thematically, character wise, in some regards, it's kind of really messy. And I don't know if the sum of it's a kind of a movie where maybe like the sum of the parts is not better than the whole, rather than like there are sections that we will talk about that everybody's already talking about that are like legitimately excellent, and there are others choices that lead to the whole movie, I think, falling apart in some regards. I
I
don't
would say
know.
the character arcs aren't messy to me, just very bleak.
I don't know if it bleak is like it's just like because I there's nothing wrong with being bleak. Bleak is sick. Like bleak
Yeah.
is awesome. Like show me more like cynicism and like I love nihilism. Like I love that stuff. That stuff's great. I just don't know if the actual movie itself supports the characters and the character arcs in the long run, despite them being individually they're great. In the context of the movie as a whole, maybe like this is what I'm still like wrestling with it. I still don't really know how to process this. This is why I kind of like cowered
Mm.
and hid behind another question when you asked me my
Okay,
opinion.
well, the elephant in the room is the Real Big Picture Show interview that we both listened to with Alex Garland, conducted by Sean Murphy.
Sean Fennessy, and it's the Big Picture
Sean
Show.
Fennessy,
I've been
whatever.
shitting with this.
What?
You call it the Real Big Picture Show.
What's
I've
it
been
called?
It's the Big Picture Show.
Oh, I'm
Or
sorry.
the
I'm
Big
sorry.
Picture.
It's called the Real
How dare you? It's just
Whatever.
called the Big Picture.
Big Picture Show with Sean Fennessy. Okay. So, first of all, I love the parts where he talks about his mixed relationship with journalism.
Me too.
He says that he grew up around journalists and that he understands that journalism is both being unfairly criticized by like the big political parties, like the like polarizing political issues, but at the same time he also acknowledges that there are journalists and journalist companies or news companies that purposefully validate certain sides. Like the two biggest examples would be like Fox News and CNN. Fox News is going to validate everything on the right, and CNN is going to validate everything on the left. Those are the two big national television companies. And I think all that complexity that he has with the evolution of journalism and journalism's position today is seen in the characters like pretty perfectly. Like Kirsten Dunst um is a very flawed person. Like you can tell she's struggling with the fact that she's witnessed all these heinous crimes and just sort of just took pictures of them and never interfered. And on one hand, what she's doing is noble because she's risking her life to, in theory, show people the horrors of war so it doesn't happen in her own home country.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when she sees Jesse in danger, she's always going to go out of her way to save her over getting the shot. And then when you see Jesse, who I think represents the up and coming generation of journalism, where she's purely, well, she starts off naive and traumatized by what's going on. By the end of the movie, she's purely about getting the quote unquote money shot. And at the end, Kirsten Dunst finds herself finally on the opposite end of her own quote unquote crimes by not acting, where she's in danger and someone's taking a picture of her rather than rescuing her.
Yeah.
So that stuff is brilliant to me. What are your thoughts on the journalist element of this movie?
I mean, even just going off of what you just said, I mean, again, we're jumping back and forth here, but like it's amazing, and some of my favorite parts of how Alex Garland wields that aspect of journalism, whether it's the like so the final part of the scene of the movie is a siege on the White House to go kill Nick Offerman, who plays the president, and our three characters who are left, Wagner Moura, I think is the actor, Kirsten Dunst, and Kaylee Spaney, or Jesse. They're like, what's it called? Kirsten Dunst and Jesse or Lee and Jesse are walking with the people who are killing the resistance left in the White House, and they're wielding their guns and they're tactical and they're moving about, but they have cameras. And it's very like it's this nice subtle way of like, yeah, you explore their character stuff, but also it's I think what Alex Garland is trying to do here is like the weaponization of journalism in some regard. Like they're wielding these cameras like guns. They're in the middle of these conflicts, holding the cameras like some people, other soldiers are holding the guns. And to me, that is like, I mean, my favorite parts of this movie outside of like the production stuff is like it is a pretty interesting exploration of journalism. The movie starts with like the scene of characters like family or people. I think it's pretty purposeful that like the characters we see trying to get water are like minorities in the movie.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get water for their families, and it's like a small group or a group of people, and then equally as large as the group of reporters and journalists laughing and like they're zoo animals basically, like treating these people who are desperate, who are searching for some kind of like hope. And I think it's pretty, like at that point when Alex Garland was talking about that, it's pretty fascinating exploration of like the ghoulishness at times of like war journalists. Um, which also made it interesting that he's talking about the respect he has for journalists, because I didn't really get a lot of like pro journalism and war journalism stuff in the movie. To me, it came across more as like these guys are like ghoulish fiends at times, and I got more of that than the positive. I don't know what
There's
you think
definitely
of that.
contradiction between what he says in the Sean Fantasy interview versus what he said. I watched the Daily Show interview as well, whereas
Okay.
the Daily Show interview is a little more like rah journalism.
Yeah.
And then in the Sean Fantasy interview, I think he gives a more complicated explanation of what he views like the purpose of journalism and like whether or not journalists today are in it for themselves or in it for like exploiting and keeping politicians and people in power responsible for what they do.
Yep.
So I think so. Interestingly enough, Mark, our friend who doesn't
Yep.
exist anymore,
We don't. Yeah, we
he
don't
called
love
this
him.
movie the Prometheus of this year, and I after seeing it, I like 100% agree with that
Yeah.
point. And I'm really fully realizing now because there's so my head is just like scrambled with so much I want to talk about,
Yeah.
and I just don't know how to express it.
Yeah.
And so I think the most logical step to go next is the second part of the Big Picture Show interview, which is about sort of Alex Garland defending himself and his lack of showing any clear like political stances in this movie. Even not even his own political stances, but political stances within the factions of the US presented here. And
Yeah.
saying that people are looking for validation for their own political beliefs. And when he doesn't give it to him, that's it's like it's a you problem, bro, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with that because I don't want to understand the world of Lord of the Rings because I want to know if my political party, my political ideals are represented as the good side, and the political ideals I'm against are represented the bad side. I want to understand like what the like. Can you imagine watching Star Wars and there's like no
Yeah.
explanation of what's going on? It's like my
Yeah.
biggest criticism with the movies when we got out of the theater and like we're trying to figure out, okay, that first conflict with the guys in like the Hawaiian shirts fighting the people in like the US
Yeah.
Army outfits, and then like Jesse Plemons' side, we're like, wait, who are they? Are they representing the US government? Are they representing
Yeah.
Florida? Are they representing the Texas California alliance? Why are
Yeah.
Texas and California in an alliance? Did the president go on his third term and was he attacking his own people because of the conflict rising, or was it before the conflict was rising? It just reeks of, to me, like lack of thinking through the conflict to a certain extent, or lack of wanting to explain it and then justifying it as, oh, you just wanted your political beliefs validated. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, like the interview that he talks about a lot, he talks a lot about like communication, like the breakdown of communication and how it results in stuff like this. But I mean, if we want to look at it from a pure like, hey, we watched a movie and what were some of our faults with the movie? Yeah, it kind of is a little like jarring at times, like thematically to watch a movie and be like, I don't really know what's going on. Like what's the side? You know what? Like it's interesting. It's thought provoking. It makes you think. It makes you. I mean, my brain like that is running a million miles an hour. But I mean, yeah, it feels like this is where I'm like I'm tripping up against the wall here because I don't know how like if he's so clear about his disdain for polarization, and I think that comes through because you see like the worst of people in the movie. Jesse Plemons' character is like we could just be pretty blunt is like he kills two of the Chinese character because they aren't American.
Because they're not American.
Yeah,
And he's
because
gonna
he
kill what's his name?
I forget the character's name, but the actor.
Joel, because
Yeah,
he's from Florida, which is interesting comic. He says, "Oh, so you're Central American." So I'm like, so did Florida secede and join Central America? Like, I think
yeah,
it's like a great line, and it explains it without saying, "Oh, I'm from Florida, but now Florida is not part of the
yeah,
U.S." Like, that's good, but I'm like, because his army, they wear like traditional army camo, so I
yeah,
immediately thought, and they have assault rifles. I immediately thought, oh, okay, so they're part of the U.S. government because they
yeah,
have all the best equipment. And then by the end of the movie, on the attack on the White House, like the military, like the Texas California Alliance has all the best military equipment and
Yeah.
all the discipline and all like the camo. And I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah, and so this is the thing is like many people and many of the stuff I've seen, and even Alex Garland himself is like, well, this is supposed to be the point. You know, the point of the movie is the breakdown of communication. If a civil war happens like that, like there's that scene with the sniper, and it's like, who cares? He's trying to kill us. Doesn't matter what side we're on. We're just trying to
Yeah.
kill each other. I get the point. I understand where it's coming from. Does it necessarily make for inherently good filmmaking for me to become immersed and like you kind of stop and think? You're like, because I mean that Jesse Plemons scene, like you can argue that like, oh well, he's a character who takes the worst of one specific side. We can talk about his centrist Alex Garland's political beliefs, but then you zoom out to the dozens of people that group has killed, and there are black people, there are white people in there, and you're kind of
Yeah,
like,
he's clearly like American nationalist.
yeah, like
Um,
and it just doesn't make it just leaves a lot of stuff because Alex Garland is basically saying like I actually wanted to make a movie about journalism, and this is where a lot of the issues I'm having with it are. He wanted to make a movie about journalism, but he wanted to frame it from the perspective of like the Civil War, the lack of communication, the issues with journalism, and what that stems. But at the same time, he's very much like, I don't want to make this movie political. You can't really do that if you're inherently including politics in a time in a great political divide. And I don't want to say like we talk about polarization, and in that interview he's like, do you want me to make any more? He's like, I don't think making any more large grand opinions is going to help. It's going to add more fuel to the fire. And he's like, I don't really necessarily believe that like left or right, it's a moral issue. And like I agree that like there are some sides that like always have a stand, and like some sides that push too long or push too far, and he's against it. But also like it's not like it's two sides on how to govern a state properly when the politics in America are so divided culturally and ethically. And he's putting it out at a time and claiming he doesn't want the divide. But it's like he didn't read the room.
but in the big picture show interview, he says he kind of explains it a little bit where he says, "Oh, Texas and California seceded because they're both
Yeah.
because they're both like extreme opposite sides of the political spectrum. And they didn't feel like they were being represented by their parties,
Yeah.
and like so they formed an alliance."
But that's the thing. He also can't say that when California is a known left state and California is a known, or Texas is a known perceived right state. I know what he's doing. Like this very left leaning and very right leaning perceived states were so abhorrently, like they viewed the actions of the president so abhorrently that they decided to unify. They cast aside their differences for a greater evil. I get that.
Not even a greater evil, just because they didn't think they were being represented. Like that's what
Yeah.
I got, and like
Okay.
that just seems so immature. Like
Do you
to
think
think
it's
that would
like,
happen.
do you think it's like because they didn't seem represented? Like
That's what I understood. Maybe I didn't understand that correctly when I was listening to the interview, but
I
I
don't know
interpret it
either.
as like they both didn't feel like they were being represented by their government, so they seceded. And
Yeah.
but like I don't
Exactly.
know. I mean,
Like what is like this is the thing is like we can look at this. If you strip away the politics from this movie, what you get is a pretty solid, effective movie about journalism in a wartime, the ethics of journalism, the ethics of wartime journalists, the impact that they have. There's great character arcs where you have the inverse of two characters. We can talk about them more another time, but and we might be playing into his hands by not being able to look past the politics, but at the same time, he's trying
it's not
to
even the politics. I just want to know like what's at stake. Like I
it's
want to know
yeah,
why people are acting the way they're acting. I'm not looking like, for example, like Lord of the Rings, like the comics in Lord of the Rings are inconceivable to the real world because it's just
yeah,
like it's good versus bad, but like at least you understand like what side represents what.
yeah.
Again, like
You
I
want
don't agree
yeah,
with Starship Troopers. Like it's a parody of a fascist government,
yeah,
but you care about the characters within. Like he mentioned Starship Troopers and not like the like they're like without any of the fascist propaganda in that
yeah,
movie,
yeah.
like the blatant fascist propaganda, like the ironic social commentary. Like if like all these soldiers just landed on this planet and like you have no idea like why they're acting so like blindly loyal to the government and things like that.
Yeah.
Like you can give us some explanation as to what's going on without it necessarily being like a validation of. And it's like if you really want to piss people off, like you can make it about politics and that will still piss people off. Like
He
it's like
did
it's
make
such
it
like a
about
weird
politics.
what?
He did make it about
But
politics. It's a
make it more like, oh, like just be really weird about it and make like make Nick Offerman the biggest liberal in the world,
Yeah.
and, like
Or the-
something
yeah.
like that. Then he, like a liberal who turns fascist or something crazy. Like it feels like such like a cop out to me to be like, oh, you wanted polarization, you didn't get it.
But he also has stuff like, remember there's a line in this, I just remembered this, where he's like, yeah, do you remember that Antifa massacre? And he makes it perfectly vague whether or not Antifa was massacred or they
Yeah.
massacred somebody.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you're like, dude, like in the theme of the movie with communication, I get it. He has in that interview with Sean Fennis, he talks about like retiring from movies. And he's like, I said one thing and the media ran with something completely else and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And I get it that is a thing he's attributing to the movie. Was Antifa massacred or did they massacre people? If you are on the right, the Antifa being massacred is something more aligned. And if you're on the left, the Antifa massacring people might more like, I get it. Does it make for an inherently good movie with the journalism themes? I don't know. Because it's a lot of like the scene with the snipers is cool. But it also is
casual, but there's so many like cool little details. Like the sniper has like bleach blonde hair
with
and like
painted
colored
nails.
fingernails.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? But it's cool. You can speculate.
Yeah.
Like there's so much you can fill in the blanks by yourself, and that's why I love the movie at the same time. Like that's why it's Prometheus of our generation of 2024 because
Yeah.
there's so much that's implied, and there's so much you can make up on your own, and that's why I was on a mountain hailing the praises of Anatomy of the Fall because it lets you think for yourself and you can draw your own conclusions. And that
Which
we're
Alex
talking some
Garland
negative.
loves.
What?
Which Alex Garland loves Anatomy of the Fall, by the way.
Oh, did he say that?
He said that in the interview. He's like, it's one of my favorite movies of last year.
Okay, yeah, and like just to clarify, like so I haven't seen a lot of movies in 2024 so far, but this is the first movie I think I've seen, and maybe in 2024 and 2023 where it's like I finished a movie and like I want to rewatch that. Like,
yeah, me too.
My first impulse was like I need to see this again to see because like I'm assuming that there are more details that went over my head on a first viewing. Like I'm sure Jesse Plemons' character probably has a patch on his arm with like the flag that'll distinguish what faction he's part of.
Yeah.
And like I accept that probably on a rewatch I will understand more where he is coming from. And like so like my huge conflict, like the devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other, is like I love how vague it is, but then also I'm frustrated by how vague it is because like I'm so attached to what's going on that I want to learn more.
Yeah.
So like that's like the big dilemma I'm dealing with right now. I think like at least on this first viewing, it's like between a 4 and a 4.5 star movie out of me because I think it's so bold.
Okay.
And I think a rewatch is either gonna make it like a 5-star movie or like a 3.
You're fucked with this movie hard, didn't you?
I like adored this movie. Like when I went for a walk last night and put on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like again, as I said, like I was going towards map when I walked out of the theater, and then like I was getting back towards like this movie's awesome.
Yeah.
By like the end of the night last night.
Yeah.
And like I just don't know what to think. And that's like why like I watched Dune Part 2, and Dune Part 2 is technically a more satisfying movie from like a narrative traditional standpoint. But like this movie I just saw and I'm like, my mind can't comprehend what's going on.
Yeah.
And like I want to watch it again.
It's an interesting like experiment, and the thing that we've been hailing this entire time is like, give me 100 of these movies a year and cinema will be the best it's ever been. Like movies that make me like take a swing. Do they hit? It depends on the person. It depends on what you're looking for. Like I don't like when you're watching this. So I mean, again, we saw this once. We saw it 24 hours ago. The movie is just a series of collections of scenes of characters interacting something, and each scene is pretty much trying to prove some kind of larger thematic point, whether it's like the first gas station sequence where these like you come across these people and they have hung up looters, and some guy's like, I went to high school with that guy, should I just shoot him now? Like what should I do? And it's treated very not jovially but like flippantly, and you're just like, oh okay, like you're getting the start there, and then you have the snake. Like let me ask you this, like does the maybe like the lack of connectivity between the scenes outside of like the character's journey, because the only really connective tissue is the characters are trying to get to one point, did that bother you? It kind of bothers me a little bit.
What the journey, the fact that the whole movie is based off of like a road trip?
No, like the lack of connectivity between the scenes, because you basically have one event. You loved it. Okay.
Yes.
What did you love about it specifically? Like, what did it add to the movie for you? Did it take anything away?
So it's funny because I think the overarching political justification for what's going on feels far-fetched, but the nitty-gritty details feel real to me and authentic. Like the characters and the little conflicts they get into,
Yeah.
like ground the movie in realism for me. Like the fact that um like the journalist that the first real action scene in the movie is like the first shot of it is like a guy cowering behind a column
Yeah.
as gunfire is just spreading around him, and you follow these guys in like just like traditional like normal shirts, and
Yeah.
as they go up and they they kill one wounded enemy.
Who's
I say enemy
pleading
because I don't
without.
know who like because I say
Yeah, it
enemy
doesn't
'cause I
matter.
don't know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
And then like then like once the conflict's over, they're just like sitting there relaxing, having a smoke and just chatting because it's like, and then as they're chatting, it's playing like energetic music,
As
and
they're
then
getting,
as
as
they're
they're getting,
mowing down the host like the kidnapped
and as the
the
guy
war
doing it is like, yeah,
the war
like
prisoners.
let's like
Yeah.
fucking go. Yeah.
And it's like it makes sense in one regard how like it's like, oh, you just survived this huge battle, but like you continue to live, so you're just gonna chat with the guys after. Like I love that stuff. I
Yeah.
love the sniper sequence because it's just like they're so used to war by this point that they're just like the boringness of war. Like at one point, Kirsten Dunst is like just sitting behind the truck and she just looks at the flowers.
Yeah.
Like it zooms it like focuses in on the flowers and the grass because it's like, well, she's stuck there for a little while,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's
like
like we
things like
can't
that.
move. Yeah, we'll get sniped. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when the sniper kills whoever the guy is in the mansion, he's like, "Well, I got good news,"
Yeah. He's
and
like,
then
I
just
got
go
great
on with
news.
their lives.
Yeah.
Um, so things like that felt so like I feel like I've read it in a book, like a an experimental fiction book. It would have been more appropriate, I guess, or not more appropriate, but more accepted because when you watch a movie, you expect a more traditional narrative beats. Where when you read a book, like book narrative beats can tend to be all over the place. Like you can be more
Yeah.
experimental with books, and you're more accepting of it, I guess. Um, that stuff I loved, and we even talked about, and no one talks about like when they go to that one small town
Yeah. I
where
was
like
about to
nothing
say.
bad is going on. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
we just choose to stay out of it. I'm
Yeah.
like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But then
how
they
did this
pan up
happen?
and it's like there are actual snipers on the roof. It's like, oh, people can't really stay out of it. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, I think it's pretty interesting that, I mean, it's clearly so different than his other movies. I mean, it's like they also
Well, each of his
chose
movies is like different from his last
is
movie.
Devs like so vastly different from everything else as
Yeah,
well.
Devs is like nothing like.
He's so fascinating. And like I also think it's interesting that Alex Garland chose to have like the one interaction in that town be in one of those like small stores you walk into and you're like, what are you selling and how are you in business? Like they had
Yeah,
like 11 pairs of clothes and like a hat. And you're like, what
yeah.
kind of store is this? Like when I used to live in California, I no longer live there, so I could say I could dox myself there. But like if you've ever been to Brentwood, or if you've ever been to like those like super rich areas and you walk around like the Brentwood shopping areas and you're like, you walk in and you're like $150 for like a shitty shirt. Like, who's fucking paying for this? How is this store in business? It's kind of
Mm.
like that, but it's that look of like these people are not affected. You see people like walking around on the streets and like it's juxtaposed by like they just went under a bridge that says ghost dealers with like hung bodies. And it's like, what is he trying to say? Like, what is the point of this? Like, why is the interconnective like why is there a lack of interconnectivity? I don't know. I'm like wrestling with a lot. I'm lower on it than you are. You're like, fuck yeah. And I'm like, hi. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I can't scratch the feeling that like something in my brain is stopping me from like really like loving this movie. And the interview didn't help. Like the interview like annoyed me. I don't want to like polarize it because I'm falling into the traps of what he said, but like it doesn't feel like a lot is being said in this movie.
I
Like the
think a
mess.
lot is being said from like a character perspective, like an individual, as I said, like individual
Yeah.
characters, a lot's being said, but from like a grand political, there's no grand political statement, and like what he alludes to in interview doesn't feel very believable to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I just I don't know. And I really I'm struggling with it because if you strip away the politics, if you strip away the lack of explanation, it's just a movie about journalism and characters who are trying to either lose or regain their humanity. Because Kirsten Dunst regains her humanity. She deletes the photo of
Sammy.
Sammy, yes,
Yeah.
as he is dead in their car because he's shot. He died heroically saving them.
Yeah.
And she deletes the photo because I think she recognizes either like this is not the Boba, like that's a human being, or she understands like it's kind of at a point where like oh the like Civil War is at our door, like the stuff I tried to warn us about, like what's the point? And she even has that breakdown when she's actually like storming the White House, and she's kind of like what the fuck is like this is insane.
Yeah, she breaks down at one point, like when
Yeah,
they're breaking through the walls.
and she ultimately
Um,
dies
and
saving.
meanwhile, Jesse is like almost leading the charge into the front lines of the
Yeah,
battle,
and
which
she
is crazy.
loses arguably, and then the movie leaves you with the question of like after is Jesse going to become Lee without the revelation at the end of her life of like I want to be kind of like a good person again, like I want to be like my work is purposeful and my work is interesting. And I mean Alex Garland talks a lot about like
She's Lee, but she doesn't have the life experience yet to reflect on her career,
yeah,
basically.
and
Like she very well could reflect, but like she's probably exactly where Lee was when she was 23 or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
exactly. I wonder because I mean, even in that interview, Alex Garland talks about like being around journalists, and they're like they can be really messy people in real life who are just extremely focused and dedicated on their work, and you kind of get that a little bit. You like with the Wagner Mora character. What's his name again? Joel.
Yes, Joel.
Joel. He kind of like flirts with like the young girl. He's like they're always like smoking weed in the movie. It's really like and when Lee dies at the end, he's kind of like I want to get the story. Like maybe the morning comes after. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the realization that maybe they wouldn't have lived. Like all these messy people come together, and it's like it's not a
Yeah,
movie
he was
about
so upset
politics.
when Sammy died, and then when Lee dies. Well, then again, it's like it reminded me of Annihilation, where it's like you're getting deeper into that truth you're trying to uncover, where it's
Yeah,
like we've gone too far now to turn back. And I think
yeah,
I would say that's probably what Joel's point is. The point is there. It's like even though like it's in a more it's not in like this like crazy Lovecraftian environment, it's still like a very similar theme
yeah.
of just
They're in
like
a room.
we're almost there. We
Yeah,
we just cannot go back now.
yeah,
And I think that's what I interpreted it as. And the fact that he's so unsympathetic towards the president, where it's like, where he's like, I just need a quote. I just need a quote from you.
yeah.
And
Don't
then,
let me kill. Please don't let me. Please don't let them kill me. He's like that's
yeah,
good enough.
yeah,
And then he gets shot. I don't know, man. Like it's a movie that's like a buck 40. Like it's not like a 2 hour 15. Like we're sitting there where it's very like there's no fluff to it. It's
no,
extremely stripped down. It's the bare minimum is in there, which is a criticism that you had. But in terms of like movie filmmaking, it's paced like it ended. I was like, oh shit, like cool. Buck 40. Like I love it. Like that's that type of movie.
movie's got to be shorter.
Do you have a favorite like sequence, a favorite scene, like favorite parts of the movie as a whole?
Um, I mean, I just love the scene where Lee is like finally on the opposite end of what she's been doing her whole career,
Yeah.
where she's the one in danger and she's being photographed. I thought
Yeah.
that like I want to rewatch the movie just to like see Kirsten Dunst's performance there again to like
Yeah.
really appreciate like what is she thinking? Like, oh, like I did the right thing, or like why aren't you helping me? Or oh crap, I'm finally
Yeah.
getting a
I'm
taste of my own
dead.
medicine. Like I want to
Yeah.
see that performance again.
Yeah.
And just like he Alex Garland isn't a flashy filmmaker, but he's a great filmmaker. Like the whole
Yeah.
sequence where like the first main battle where like they're going up the steps and you hear like the guy groaning as he's bleeding
Yeah.
to death, and it's so meticulous and slow.
Yeah.
Um
He's not groaning, he's crying. He's like
crying.
weeping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's crying. And just he's just an excellent filmmaker.
Yeah.
Again, no flash, but like everything he does is so suspenseful
It's so
across his
good.
movies, really.
That final when they're storming the White House,
The
you're
the
like,
whole White House sequence is
it's
fantastic.
fucking fantastic. Like it's so good. It's so like it's very there are very few filmmakers I feel like that capture like the true like real like shrill hollow sound of like a gun. Not that I've been like I'm rooting tooting shooting guns
Oh yeah,
and
whenever a gun goes off, like I jumped
it
basically
jars.
because
Yeah.
it's a and yeah,
Yeah,
someone's
it's
dead.
I don't want to like I know you actually like this movie, but it's kind of the similar in like Heat. Where like
Oh
Michael Mann has like
yeah,
incredible gun
definitely.
sound effects where you're like these things are menacing and
Like
loud and
that handheld, like you're in the thick of it
yeah.
sort of style. Yeah, it's definitely very Heat-esque,
Yeah.
in that regard.
I mean you're
Unlike Black Hat, where you can't see what's going on, Heat you can
hey,
see what's
hey,
going on.
fuck you.
Um,
It's a great movie. I'm gonna buy the director's cut. I don't know. Like, if you were to, you haven't seen Men, but you have seen Devs. I really don't think you like Men. Like, I think even like your love of Civil War, I think you wouldn't like Men that much.
okay,
I We haven't rated this on Letterboxd yet because we haven't seen it. But if your tentative is like 4 to 4.5 right
4 to
now,
4.5. I'm thinking, yeah. Even
mine's like
after this discussion too, I'm still thinking 4 to 4.5.
I'm thinking like 3.5 for me. Like I
Okay.
really dug it, but I have some flaws with it. But there's still stuff we even haven't talked about. Like we really haven't talked about like the Jesse Plemons stuff. Jesse Plemons is like the
His
coolest.
sunglasses get 5. I get this movie 5 Jesse Plemons and funny sunglasses out of 5.
Yeah. But like I don't know, like I see a lot of people comparing him to like Philip Seymour Hoffman, where he comes in, he's got like the gravitas and the range, and he could just do
He's like an
anything,
average looking dude who can play like any character.
any character. I have you ever seen Game Night?
No.
He's like I'm not the biggest fan of it, but he's really good in it. But
It's funny, he's in Fargo season 2, which is
yep.
like my first real exposure to him, I would say.
Well,
And
I thought it was Breaking Bad was your first probably real exposure. He's in Breaking Bad, right?
he is I would say Fargo season 2 is the first
Okay.
time I realized he was like an amazing actor because he plays Kirsten Dunst's husband in that movie.
Oh, okay.
In that minute, because like each season of Fargo is self-contained. So season 2, and like they're married in real life now. Like
Yeah.
they were a couple and then they got married. And they're in movies a lot together actually. They're in a movie, like a Western movie that I
Yeah.
can't think of right now, where they're both in it. But like,
Howard the Dog?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
He's great in Fargo season 2. I mean, Kirsten Dunst is great in that as well, but he's great in The Master. Even like his small role in The Irishman is good. Like he plays so many diverse characters and he's always great in everything that he's in.
You know, he's great in your least favorite movie of 2023, Killers of the Flower Moon. He's great in.
Yeah, I wish the movie was about him, to be
Yeah.
honest. The
I
movie
mean,
would actually would have been good.
the book is from his perspective or whatever. I don't know. If this might have been like I remember reading.
He is so
something.
good in that movie too. Why didn't they make the movie about him? The movie would have been so much better.
He's
Get Leonardo
fucking-
DiCaprio out of there.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
DiCaprio.
DiCaprio. You know, I took an Uber in LA, off topic.
Oh,
real
you
quick.
told me that the guy drove Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
one
he's like
time.
he went in my trunk, and I was like, all right. He's like, do you know that guy from Titanic? Where like Olive and I were like, Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's like, yeah, he got in my trunk. He's a really nice guy. He tipped me really well. I was like, yeah. I was like, good for him. I apparently that like there was another actor cast in Jesse Plemons' role, but he couldn't do it, and Jesse Plemons was on set, and Kirsten Dunst was like, why don't you just put him in the movie? And that's how he's in the
So
movie.
he's like, I'll be in it, but I have to wear these funny sunglasses.
Yeah, I gotta wear these funny sunglasses. I get to shoot 2 people, and he's like, all right, you pick the 2
But like
people.
he's such a like if you saw him on the street, you think he's like some average Joe. But
Yeah.
then like in this movie, he's a psychopath. And that's like probably the most tense scene in the movie where they're just like out in this field.
Yeah.
Which probably is like one like the more contrived elements of the movie is when Sammy comes with the truck and it's like no one heard him.
Yeah, or it's
But
like
it's a movie.
it's a
It's
movie.
a freaking movie.
But like, yeah, it's really stupid. And Cinema Sins would do that. Ding! Why did Jesse
why
go
did
in the
you
car?
come-
Why did you go in the car?
Um,
Yeah, people are stupid. And yeah, it's like you're watching it and you're like, this is dumb. And it's
Yeah.
you could have written a better scene for this. Like, just have them drive along together. There's no
I
need.
know.
It's
But the
no
way
need.
like he like slowly interrogates everyone, and he's like he kind of like a little bit like a dullard aspect to him, where he's like
Yeah.
it's like you American, like things like that. But like, again, Jesse Plemons is just a gift that we have to appreciate.
Yeah.
He's only 36, like he's still in his prime, and he still has many years left of his prime.
50
And,
more
like,
years of Jesse Plemons. Let's go.
yeah, exactly. I want as much Jesse Plemons as possible.
Yeah, that great. I mean, that scene, like
I want a whole spin-off movie.
just of that
no,
guy.
a spin-off series about
Okay.
how Jesse Plemons got those funny sunglasses.
Sunglasses into that moment. Yeah, we get like they are occasionally teased at the end of each episode. They're like
Yeah.
they're shown in a different hands at like a Dollar Tree.
He sees a billboard where it's like funny sunglaslasses, 50% off. He goes, I'm going there, and then roll credits. And then next episode is the lead in.
Like, I gotta get my sunglasses. I like the scene where he's like, what is it? But like, he's like, we're all coworkers. He's like, oh, you're coworkers. He just shoots the guy, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, this guy's a fucking insane person. I like how the body gets stuck, and he's like, hey, get it, like, go get that body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Also, I would say like when Jessie falls into the pit of the dead bodies, like that could be like the death of her innocence, maybe. And then when she comes back, she's full blown
She's
journalist.
crawl out of hell.
Yeah,
and that was
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, like I'm like smiling because the movie just messed with me so much, and like I find it to be like a challenge in a way, and I like it.
I asked you this after the movie,
Oh,
and
did
I
you see
wonder
that Paul Schrader like shat on Killers of the Flower Moon?
what did he say about it?
He's like, it should have. He said it should have been about the detectives. He goes, the movie was long, but like he said it was good, like but like a condescending good, like oh, it was good.
It was pretty
He,
good.
he is
I
like
could have done
his whole
better.
career is him just roasting Martin Scorsese now. He just takes a shot in Martin Scorsese like at
Why?
every
Do they not?
opportunity he can,
Do
and
they
Martin
not like?
Scorsese does not acknowledge Paul Schrader's existence at
Yeah.
all.
He's like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, I just do think he's like, it's too long for. I'm like 89. He's like, this shit's long.
Yeah, I had to
Like
go
a
to the bathroom 3 times.
Yeah, 14 times I had to go to the bathroom. It was constant. It took him like 7 hours to watch that movie.
But he said it should have been about the detectives as well. Um,
Listen,
can I get a rewrite? Can Paul Schrader do like the Redux version of
that's just
Killers of
the
the Flower
book,
Moon?
though. Like, go read the book. The book is about from the perspective of the FBI and the detectives.
It'd be an hour and 45 and just be Jesse Plemons writing in a journal about his experiences.
I would be fine. with
That sounds
movie.
like a great movie,
That sounds like a
doesn't
great
it?
movie. Just have him narrating. It's basically just, or how about this? Let's just take Jesse Plemons and reshoot First Reform, but with Jesse Plemons. Just reshoot it complete, shot for shot, performance for performance. Just Jesse Plemons said
He
it.
should be like really poor. Like they should have Paul Schrader do the CGI work to put him into the movie.
just
So
really
he's, like,
poor.
sitting there, and there's like all this like blurry green screen like frames around him.
It's just Jesse Plemons just writing on a random green screen. So he's like,
He has
yeah.
funny sunglasses on the whole time.
Why does he have those sunglasses? It makes
That's crazy. I didn't know that he was supposed to that was supposed to be
I
different.
think I don't want to.
different
I'm
person.
pretty sure I read it somewhere. I don't remember.
That don't make sense though, because like out of all the characters they run across in the movie, like for the random vignettes, like he's the only like
Actor.
known actor, I would say. So it wouldn't make sense that like they probably casted some other person and then
He's literally like in maybe 4.5 minutes of this movie.
yeah.
Like he's like that might even be pretty generous. Like
Mm.
it's a very short scene. And also like you and I were like you and I fist bumped because like the car went away and I was like, I think it's time for him.
Yeah.
And we were like,
yeah.
you were like, yeah, like let's go. It's him.
Jesse Plemons, funny sunglasses, and then like it was the most horrific scene of the whole movie.
I wonder what that says about us that we're about to witness like two people be massacred because they are Chinese or one from Hong Kong, but
But
like
we didn't know.
we
at the
didn't
time.
know, but we were like, hey, he's here.
We're
let's
like
do it.
Jesse Plemons, funny
Jesse
sunglasses.
Oh, he's a fucking man. Good movie. Good shit. Like I like these are the type of stuff that I enjoy. Alex Garland, he said he's not going to retire. He's like, I'm just stepping away from directing for now. He's like, I just want to screenwrite. He's like, I'm working on stuff
Yeah,
already.
he says writing is his passion.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean,
tell him to come fucking back here. I want more movies like this. This movie rocked. It was
I
pretty
know.
good.
I mean, I don't know, like, look, because like he probably wasn't expecting this movie to be as. Well, I mean, we don't know how successful it will be, but it's looking like it'll be very successful.
But
So,
but
like
that doesn't make any sense because he's like, I didn't expect this movie to be divisive, and it's like, then you didn't read the room. Like that's on him. That's on him.
well, I mean, maybe like not divisive. I'm just saying purely from like a financial aspect. Like, I don't think he's probably expecting the movie to be gaining as much attention as it did.
Maybe.
So
I
like
don't
I can see
know.
like if this movie does well, he'll have like the Jordan Peele ticket to make whatever he wants kind
He
of
already.
deal.
Do you think he already has though? X
True.
Men and Annihilation are like
Sure.
they stand
No,
out.
but
because
Annihilation didn't do
both didn't do well,
both didn't do well.
and
I'm
Men
saying
didn't do
like
well either.
what?
Men didn't do well either.
Okay, no one saw him then.
No one saw that, but like he's been making. It seems like
More
whatever
like
he
man
wants.
saw it.
It was just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on a laptop. Like this movie sucks.
That man has a vagina.
Yeah, the guy grows a vagina and then he births another guy, and then he births another guy, and then a guy comes out his back, and then another guy comes out of that guy's mouth. And then the movie ends, and you're like, all right, sure. It's all an allegory for the toxicity of masculinity, how we give birth to more toxic masculinity, and how this character can't escape Matt's reading his phone.
I'm sorry. I was listening, but
You were not listening.
no, you're saying
What's so
something about
important over there? What's so important rather than me recap a movie you haven't seen, you're never going to watch?
Zara. Sorry.
Tell her.
I ignored her for like 45 minutes. And now I'm like, I have to respond now.
Well, good shit. This is a good movie. I am glad we got to talk about it. I'm glad we sat on it because,
Yes.
man,
I
I
feel
don't
like if we
know.
recorded it right after we saw the movie, we'd just be like,
Yeah, there's a guy. He snipes another guy. I don't know. I'm impressed. I want Kirsten Dunst to lead more movies. Also, Alex Garland rocks. Like all 4 of his movies have like great female like leads. Kirsten Dunst, Jessie Buckley. It's like Natalie Portman. It's Alicia
Even from his
Vikander.
like screenwriting perspective, like the Rookie in Dread is a really great character.
Rookie and Dread's a great character. Kaylee
Um,
Spandy's character. Jesse's a great character.
Yeah.
He knows how to write good characters.
Yeah, strong female leads, and each one is distinct from the
Yeah.
others. They're not Brie Larson. Like,
God. You're gonna make a video. It's
I'm just
like,
saying, like that, like the Disney represents like the extreme of like we're literally gonna make her indestructible,
yeah,
like strong woman versus like a well-developed
A
character.
well-developed
Is what I'm
character.
trying to say. Like I wasn't making a stupid joke. I haven't seen any of the Marvel movies, any of the Miss Marvel movies.
What was the what I remember there was an interview with Kirsten Dunst, and then we can end this, where she talks about like she's in like a director. It's like one of those like actors roundtables, and all of them are like, we love working with like women directors. It's a bunch of other like main like women like lead actors.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I've just worked with a bunch of female directors. It's not that hard. You just work with them. And I was like, I respect her. I'm like, she's cool. Like all of the other ones are like, I would love to do it. And she's like, I've been doing it. Like it's pretty easy. You just have to work
Yeah,
with them.
guys, come on. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, you just have to work with them. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, go Kirsten.
Nah, Kirsten,
Dunst.
I'm happy Kirsten Dunst had a really great career.
She's
It's kind of
like,
funny, like if you look at like this, like Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie, it's like of all like the main characters,
yeah,
like Tobey Maguire's had like the least remarkable career.
yeah. And then James Franco is not a good dude. Apparently, he hasn't been in a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
but prior to him not being good dude, like he
Yeah.
was in movies. Willem Dafoe has had like a freaking renaissance in the late
Yeah.
2010s, late 2020s, and Kirsten
Alfred-
Dunst has been in solid things ever
Yeah.
since.
It's just like it's cool to see like a movie like this be led by an actress like her. Like it's just cool.
Yeah, like
it-
she's in her
it's-
early 40s now, I think.
Yeah, and she's
And
crushing it in this movie.
yeah, and it's really great. Plays a very interesting character that you can
Yeah.
talk about and speculate on.
Yeah,
It doesn't need to like, yeah, very, just very great performance.
if the
And
Oscars
with
were
Natalie
just,
Portman as
yeah.
well, and with Alicia Vikander, like he's just great at that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. If the Oscars were just, she would be in some kind of consideration. She's really, like, genuinely fucking great in this movie.
And like I think, I mean, it'll be hard to have a sequence that's as good as like the DC attack this year. Like that's
Yeah.
like.
That's
I mean,
great.
like obviously Dune Part 2 has amazing sequences as well,
Spectacle. Yeah.
but spectacle. But like this is more like, I think it's a more like artistic, like
Auteur.
auteur. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Avant-garde.
has that like passive glory sort of like in the thick of it kind of style to it. Or like you said, heat, handheld kind of
Yeah.
like your boots on the ground style. Interesting if Garland gets any sort of like directing credit
He
or
won't. This
anything
movie's
like
too
that.
divisive.
He's
It's
too
not-
centrist.
He's too
He's
centrist.
not liberal enough.
He just cares about the free market. Matt, I think one more thing and then we can go. I'm very curious to see how this movie ages. A movie
Yeah.
that seems like it could either be very prescient for the times to come. Not saying that that's going to happen.
I mean, who knows how many years we have
Yeah,
left.
who knows? But all I'm saying is like it could be like extremely very good indicative. He was very much on the market, on the money about like communication, the breakdown of it, what Civil War is like. Who knows? But like there is a real chance that this movie it's genuinely divisive. Like it's a genuinely divisive movie. People seem to either fucking love it or really, really dislike it. And 5 years down the line, if I'm alive still, which the odds are not great with a lot of my skin stuff, one day I'm just gonna drop dead. Maybe this movie maybe this is one of the ones we remember from the 2020s. Ugh.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if it's like it's like the first thing that come up top of my head is like Come and See, where it's like if
We
it's
talked about
like
this
considered
movie,
to be like an accurate portrayal of war and media relations for its time, and like people like film scholars 50 years from now, it's like, oh, the fact that it's so
Vague.
vague on everything is just a testament to the style of the time, blah blah blah, like things like that. So I can see this movie being very well remembered in film scholar circles at some point, like 50 years from now. But I think it's like it's too attached to modern politics to really be examined in a more quote unquote objective way. But I think I'm glad that we're able to talk about it now. And then like maybe like in 30 years we'll go back to our thoughts when we're still doing this. Maybe we'll be averaging 150 views per episode by that point.
Don't you're that's a little high. I don't know about you. I don't know about that. Matt, yeah, I'm really glad we got to talk about this. It's really awesome. Do you know that
Yeah.
that Guy Ritchie movie we saw the trailer for is like people were like, it's fun. They killed Nazis at the end. That's the
Oh, it's
movie.
getting good reviews.
It's getting like decent. They're like, if
Okay.
you like people killing Nazis and a lot of blood, it's charming. That's it. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll
Okay.
see it.
Yeah, I want to see
Opening
it.
night.
I can't believe the Covenant was so good.
I know.
And
the
now I'm
Covenant
like,
rocked.
fuck, like when a Guy Ritchie movie comes out, I was like, I don't care. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
watch it. And then the Covenant was good. I'm like, holy crap! Now I have to watch Guy Ritchie movies.
Yeah, that was the other one. Yeah, yeah, that was like that's the biggest shock of like 2023 is you're in the. I saw that in theaters and Olive and I left and we're like, the movie rocked. It was so good.
Yeah, I watched it because of your recommendation. I was like,
Yeah.
that movie was really had no
I
idea
don't
it was good
often
as-
give good recommendations.
I know. Look
Gosh.
at that.
Yes. Ah, man. All right, Matt. We know what we're doing next. We're doing a clearing a watch list. Matt and I have already watched one of the movies.
It'll be an interesting
It'll
conversation.
be an interesting conversation. The movie is not good. But we got a couple more to watch this week, and we're back with clearing a watch list part 2. Matt, this is fun. Thank you for joining us. Me.
Well, I'm co-host.
You are?
So of course, I would be joining.
I don't know. Sometimes I just want to make sure that you feel welcomed and accepted in my presence. I could be.
I haven't in 11 years. Why will start now?
Yeah. Why start a new trend? All right. Thank you guys for listening or watching. And if you want us to, I don't know. All right. Fuck you guys and goodbye.